Hello, welcome everyone to tonight's class. It's great to see you. So I'm going to start the class with a reading from a book called The Language of Emotions by Carla McLaren. So listen to that and then we'll move on with the class. Our bodies cannot move backward into the past and they cannot run into the future. Our bodies can only live in the present moment. Therefore, if we center our attention in our bodies, we'll be here now. I'll read that one more time. Our bodies cannot move backward into the past, and they cannot run into the future. Our bodies can only live in the present moment. Therefore, if we center our attention in our bodies, we will be here now. So I think a lot of us live in the past or the future. I tend to live more in the future. But missing out on all the wonderful offerings of living in the moment, which is really where we should be to really live a full and real, authentic life. So let's begin our practice. You can be seated up today. So in any position that's comfortable for you, cross-legged, you can have your legs out in front of you. You can be sitting in a seat, or you can be sitting on your in a kneeling position. Gently close your eyes and settle into your body. So feel the connection to the earth. Settle into your pelvis. Take your weight down into the earth. And settle into the spaciousness of being, of just being, the spaciousness of just being. Now gently bring your attention to your breath. And without any trying to change it or any effort, just notice the rhythm of your breath and the pace of your breath and how it moves your body. And with each inhale, anchor into the moment. And as you release on the exhale, let go of any tension and relax. And gently invite your breath in a little deeper and slower. And one of the ways we can help to bring our breath in a little deeper into our bodies is a visualization. So just visualize that your breath is coming in a hole just below your belly button. And it's also leaving. The exhale is going out through that same hole just below your belly button. So for the next 5 breaths, just breathe in through that opening below your belly button. And let your breath release through that opening. Now you've deepened your breath. Just see if you're holding onto any tension in your body. Really let your shoulders relax away from your ears. See if you're clenching your jaw. Hopefully, through that exercise, you would have released any tightness or holding in your belly. But check your belly also. And lastly, just have a little check of where your thoughts are. They could still be in the day that you have come out of. They could be in the future of what you need to do. So with your next breath, bring those swirling thoughts down into your body. And if we can try centering and staying really present in our bodies throughout this practice, let's see how that will work for today's practice. So let's see, we're going to begin seated cross-legged. You can move the flesh back, the flesh on your belly, your buttocks back, so that you can really make contact with the earth, your sit bones, making contact with the earth here, and lengthen up from the tailbone all the way up through to the crown of the head. Once again, gently releasing the shoulders. And on the next inhale, take your arms up and over, fingertips up to the sky. And exhale, you can look up to the ceiling. Inhale and twist around to the right. So you're going to take your left hand onto the outside of your right knee, and your right hand can come behind you, finding the ground behind you. So before we twist anymore, we want to lengthen our spine. So inhale and lengthen. And exhale, just move your body a little more to the right. Try not to use your hands to push you, but use the muscles of your back and belly to twist. So inhale, lengthen. Exhale, release a little more around to the right. And one more inhale, lengthen and twist. And you might take your head around to look over your right shoulder. And picture your spine twisting all the way up from the tailbone through to the neck. Take 2 more nice deep breaths here. And then start to raise your back hand. So raise your right hand up to the ceiling. And then come up to the ceiling, then come over, tilt your body over to the left. Get a nice stretch here along the right side of the body, especially in the right back hip area. Two more breaths. And then you can bring the right hand back to the floor and the left hand back to the floor. Come back to center. And now begin to raise your hands back up to the ceiling. On your inhale, look up. On the exhale, and then twist around to the left side. So now the right hand is coming to the outside of the left knee, and the left hand is finding the ground, the floor behind you. Inhale and lengthen. And this time, as you exhale and twist, remember you're taking your organs around with you. So twist from the lower belly, a little more around to the left. Inhale and lengthen. Using your back muscles and your belly muscles, let's twist around a little more. One more time, inhale, taking the inner and outer body around with you, and then take your head over to look over your left shoulder. And now you can begin to raise your left arm, left hand up to the ceiling and start to tilt your body over to the right side. Getting a twist up the right side of the body here. Keeping that left hip and sit bone grounded. Breathe into the left rib cage. And then you can drop your hands back to your sides. And take a moment here to come back to center and experience the nice sensation of that twisting of the spine, the squeezing and then the releasing of the spine. Okay, so now we're going to come up onto our knees. If you need a blanket under your knees for extra padding, and if you want, you can have a block on the left side on its flatter setting. You don't need it if you don't have a block, that's fine. To come up to a tall kneeling position, we're going to come into gateway pose. So take your right foot out, directly out to the right. And if it's comfortable to have your foot flat on the mat, or if you need to raise it, your toes, whatever you find more comfortable here. Want to make sure that the left hip is over the left knee so that it's not jutting out. So bring that left hip using the outside hip muscles to bring that left hip so it's directly over the left knee, and then begin to raise your left hand up towards the ceiling. Your right hand is on your right leg, and then just start to tilt over to the right side. You can slide the right hand down your right shin. We're going to feel that stretch all the way up the outside of the left thigh, left hip, left side body, underarm, all the way through to the fingertips. See if you can breathe into your left rib cage. Expanding the capacity for breath. And now start to come up to vertical, and then start to roll, come over. Now you're going to tilt over to your right side. You can have your block here to rest your hand on your block, or you can have fingertips, you can have fingers, or you can come all the way down on your palms. This will give you a little more of a stretch. So whatever is your comfort level here. Now take your hand, your right hand, up towards the ceiling and all the way over by your right ear. It's like a supported side plank here. Stretching all the way up the right side, keeping the head in line with the spine, keeping that right shoulder back so the chest is towards the front of the room. 2 breaths here. And then come back to vertical. Bring that right knee in. You can sit back on your heels for a moment. Reconnect with your breath. Close your eyes. And now come up to a tall kneeling position. This time the left foot comes out to the side, directly out from the left hip. Make sure that the right hip is now directly under the right knee. So use those outer muscles to draw, the outer hip muscles to draw that hip in. Lengthen up through the right side of the body, right hand up towards the ceiling as you start to slide your left hand down your left shin and lean over to the left side. Breathing into the left side of the body, feeling the stretch all the way up from the hip, the thigh, the hip, side body, all the way up through to the fingertips. 2 breaths here. And then start coming back up to vertical, this time dropping your right hand down to the mat if you want to bring that block around, or fingertips, fingers, palm, as you stretch out the left side of the body, keeping the chest open towards the front of the room. The left shoulder is back. And then taking the left hand up to the ceiling and over by your left ear. Stretching all the way up through the side of the body, that foot, that diagonal from the left foot through to the fingertips. And then come back to vertical, bring your knee in, sit back on your knees. And we're just going to come back onto our, I've got to do this, just going to come back onto our seated position. And we'll just do some, take your hands back behind you. The fingertips can be out to the side or to the back of the room. So you're going to kind of lean back in a comfortable position. Feet are flat on the floor. Feet are about hip distance apart. And then do some windshield wipers. So seated windshield wipers. The knees are going to gently rock back and forth, swaying back and forth. You can bring the opposite hip up off the mat. Inhaling as you come up to center, exhaling as you lower down. Hip, that foot, leg bone rotating side to side in the hip joint. Come to still, and then you can take your feet out in front of you and do some ankle circles. So feet are rotating around the ankles, nice and slowly, going in opposite directions. Feeling that lovely movement stretching across the top of the foot. And the sole of the foot then go in the opposite direction. Have your toes stretched out and then pointed. And then take them in the same direction. So going to the right or the left, then in the same direction. Takes a little coordination. And then in the opposite direction from what you were doing. And come to still. Now I want you to focus on your shoulders. So we're going to be doing some poses where we really want to bring the shoulders back and down. So really focus, it's an external rotation of the arm bone in the shoulder socket. So externally rotating the shoulder here. Internal would be when the shoulders come forward. But we're going to be externally rotating. The chest is lifted and the collarbones are wide when we externally rotate the shoulders here. So I want you to get a nice feel for that. The shoulder blades are coming together. Breathe into your chest. Okay. So now we're going to come into our first back bend. And we'll start with modified camel. So if you have your blocks, you don't need them. If you have blocks, you can have them at your sides. You won't need them right yet, because the first one we're going to do, so you're going to come to a high kneeling position. Your knees are about hip distance apart. You can tuck your toes here and then find the back of your pelvis. So there's a ridge. It's a bit higher than your belly button. So find the back of your pelvis here, this bony ridge. And you want the heel of your hands just gently cupping that. The fingers are pointing down. And here there's the external rotation of your shoulders. So the chest is wide, the chest is open, and the collarbones are wide. So what you're going to do now is your hips are going to come a little bit forward as you start to raise your chest and start to bend back, take your shoulders back. And feel that gentle bend in your back. You don't want to drop the head, so there's a crunching of the neck. So keep the neck a little bit curled in. Keep it long though. And then you can come forward again. So the next one we're going to go to is into a full camel pose. If you don't want a full camel pose, just use your hands again to come into that position. Or if you've got blocks, you can put them back sort of by your heels, and you can find, your hands can find your blocks. So whatever is your limit today, whatever your body is telling you can do without causing any injury. So tuck your toes, take the shoulders back and down, lift the chest, hips come forward, and we're going to go back equally both sides as you bend back and your fingertips can find your heels. Keep the chest lifted. Neck is long. Breathe into that chest and openness across the chest. The shoulder blades are coming together. And then see if you can use your belly muscles to bring you back up, evenly back up to vertical. That was our first back bend. Nice work. You might want to stretch that out now. So take your hips back. Keep your knees together for this child's pose. So you're going to take your hips back and your hands are going to come back behind you. The tops of the hands are on the mat. As you roll over, forehead on the mat. If your forehead doesn't reach, use a pillow or a block. And let your shoulders roll forward. And come back up. The reason we do back bends is to strengthen the back muscles. I've been learning about the back muscles, extending all the way from the neck, ropey muscles that come down and attach to the stern, the sacrum or the back of the pelvis. So this is strengthening those muscles by doing these back bends. Okay, so now we will come into a low lunge. So come up onto kneeling, bring your right foot up by your right hand, and your fingertips in front of you, and so that you've got a 90 degree so that the knee is over the ankle. You might want to take your back leg back so you can really feel a nice stretch in all of those thigh muscles, the hip muscles, they're called hip flexors. So getting a nice stretch. You can lift up through your fingertips here. Nice stretch in that. Those hip flexors. So let your hips sink down and then forward. Keeping the knee over the ankle. And breathe into any tightness. And exhale and relax. Now you're going to use this back gluteus maximus, so your back butt muscle of the right leg, to lift your torso up to vertical. You might want to bring the foot back in a little to make sure that the knee is over the ankle. Face this way now so you can see me. Bring your right hand to the side of your right knee and then lift the left hand to the side of the right knee, in a twist, and lift your right hand and then just slowly start to take your right hand and arm back behind you in a twist here. You can look back at that hand if you want a little more of a twist. And then back to center. Bring the right knee in. And we'll move over to the left side now. So now the left foot comes by the left fingers, taking that right knee back a little bit, so you're going to get a really nice stretch up the right thigh muscles. Just check that your hip points are squared off so that they're facing forward. Now sink those hips and move them forward. Feeling all that stretching of the thighs. If you sit a lot, this is really, really good for your hip flexors, your psoas muscle, to keep it from tightening and shrinking. Stretching that out. We're going to use the left glutes now, the gluteus maximus. We're going to use that muscle to raise your torso up to vertical. You need to bring your foot back a little so that its knee is over ankle. Right hand comes to the back, to the side of the left knee. Left hand comes up. Get your balance. And then you can start to take that left hand back behind you in a gentle twist. And if you like, you can look behind you. So this is a twisting and a balancing and a strengthening act. Pose. And then bring the left hand back, bring the right knee back, and sit back on your knees. Reconnect with your breath. Find your center. We'll come into our next series of back bends. So come down onto your bellies in crocodile pose. Your feet are flat on the mat. You can just rest here and have this little moment of drawing your senses inward. We're going to begin with locust pose. So forehead is on the mat. We want to make sure we have a lot of length in the lower back when we do a back bend. So draw the buttocks away from the waist and then draw the sit bones towards your heels and lengthen your legs out away from your torso. So creating some space in the lower back. Now you can press your tops of your feet down into the mat, which might cause your knees to come up a little bit. Bring your hands by your sides, palms facing in. Take the shoulders back and down. And on an inhale, we're going to stay up on an inhale. You're going to raise, peel your chest and shoulders up off the mat, keeping your feet on the floor, fingertips drawing towards your feet. Inhale. And inhale again and lift a little higher. And inhale one more time. And lift your chest. And then exhale, you can bring your hands back around and rest your head on your hands. We'll do that one more time. So lengthening the legs out from the torso, creating some space in the lower back. The feet can press, the toenails can press into the mat. Hands by your sides, palms facing towards your thighs. Shoulders start to move up and back from your spine. And then using your back muscles, not your head, not your shoulders, using your back muscles, start to peel your chest and shoulders off the mat. Inhaling, exhale, inhale a little higher. Hands reach back to your feet, exhale, and one more inhale. As you feel that bend all the way up your spine, exhale, release. And bring your head to the other side, your cheek to the other side. Now we'll come into a bow pose. Start with a modified bow pose. So come up onto your elbows, forearms on the mat. And we'll start with the left side. So once again, getting that length in the lower back, lengthening the legs out. So you want to press your right hand in and forearm into the mat as you bend your left knee. And then take your left hand down behind you and see if you can find the front of your foot or your ankle, or if you can't, just wherever, you can just have your knee bent. Then you can lift that knee up a little as you kick it back, up and back. Now, if you can't reach your hand, you can also come over onto the side. I forgot about that. And just come onto the side and do this pose on your side body, if that's a little too intense on your back, on your belly. And then you can take your leg back down, go to the other side now. So this time the left hand and forearm are under the shoulder, pressing into the mat as you bend your right knee. Take your right hand behind you, and if you can find your foot, once again, if you need to roll over onto your left side, you can also do it like that, do this pose like that. You can raise your knee a little, kick your foot up and back and away from your buttocks to keep lengthening in the lower back. And then release. And for those who want to try full bow, we're going to be doing this equally, both hands finding feet at the same time. So if not, you can just do whichever variation you like. You can come onto your side. If you want to try full bow, the hands come down beside you, forehead on the mat. You're going to raise, bend your knees. And then take those shoulder blades back and down again as you begin to raise your chest up off the floor. And then lift your chest and see if you can reach your hands back to find your feet. Inhale. You can kick your feet away from your buttocks and take the knees a little bit off the floor. The chest is wide open and forward, collarbones are wide. And then you can release down and rest. So that was a nice workout for your spine. So lift yourselves back up. This time we'll come into a wide-legged child's pose. Bring your hands out in front of you. Belly drops in between your legs. As you rest your hips back onto your heels, you need a block. Even if you need a block, even between your buttocks and your hips. You can have your hands stretched out or crossed over in front. And relax. Breathing into your back body here. One more deep and rejuvenating breath. And come up onto your hands and knees. Just do a couple of cat-cows. So start to tuck that, drop that tailbone down as you round your spine, letting the crown of your head come towards the floor. Notice that your shoulder blades are moving away from each other. Inhale as you start to take your sit bones up, going in the opposite direction. Gliding through your upper chest, gliding through your upper arms as your shoulder blades, notice them coming together. Opening up your chest, collarbones, and then reverse. Do this on your own breath. Exhaling into cat. Inhaling into cow. And one more time. Now prepare to come into a down dog. So you want to make sure that the creases of your wrists are facing are parallel with the front of the mat. Fingers are wide. And then remember to internally rotate your upper arms so that the upper arms are coming towards each other. The elbow creases are kind of facing towards the front of the mat. Tuck your toes. Inhale and begin to lift your knees, pushing your hands back. Sit bones come up to the ceiling. You can keep your knees bent while you establish a nice line from your hands all the way up through your shoulders, and your shoulders through to your sit bones. And then draw your chest in towards your thighs. Straighten your legs one at a time, and you can let your heels come towards the floor. Come forward now into plank. So bring your body forward so that your shoulders are over your wrists. Drop your knees down and then just come back into a modified child's pose. So not all the way down, because we're going to do this one more time. Coming back up to table. Set your arms into the sturdy position. Tuck your toes. Inhale, lift your knees. Push back with your hands all the way through to your shoulders, all the way through to your sit bones that go up towards the ceiling. Chest comes towards thighs, heels drop towards the earth. And then come forward into a plank. Drop the knees back down. Take the hips back. And we'll do it one more time, just for a strengthening practice. So come forward into table, tuck the toes, set the arms, lift the hips, get a nice diagonal from the hands through to the sit bones. The thighs can be drawing back, chest coming towards the thighs, the backs of the thighs drawing back, heels lowering. Come forward into plank, and then you can drop the heels and come back into a kneeling position. It's a nice little vinyasa, a nice little flow. This really strengthens, down dog strengthens lots of, and stretches lots of different parts of the body. That really strengthens the shoulders also. Okay, so now come to standing. Take your hands up to the ceiling. Fingertips towards the ceiling, stretching the sides of the body. And then you can just lower your hands down by your sides, float them down, coming into a mountain pose, feeling your connection to the earth. And now take a wide stance, about a leg length. You're going to turn your right foot and leg all the way from the hip joint out to the right, and then bring your left toes in a little bit. Now connect the edge of your back foot with the earth. Start to bend the right knee and use your inner thigh muscles to keep that knee pointing over the middle of your foot, your second and third toe. You don't want it to come over the foot either, or over the toes. So sink down into that right leg, ground down into the back foot, and move your chest and pelvis towards the front, but you don't want this knee to come with you. So just move it to wherever is comfortable for you, but the knee does have to stay tracking over the second and third toe here to keep a healthy ankle. Bring your hand, raise your arms up to shoulder height, and then lengthen up through that back arm, through the left arm, so that the torso is nice and vertical. It does have a tendency to drop towards the front thigh, but we don't want that. So nice vertical spine here, dropping down, and then looking over the right hand as you stretch from left fingertips to right fingertips, all the way across your chest, sinking down into your hips. And then we'll move into, that's warrior two. We're going to move into reverse warrior or dancing warrior. So turn your right palm up towards the ceiling and take your left hand down the side of your back leg as you start to raise your right arm up, 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 and then towards the sky. And you can look up towards your fingertips, your right fingertips, so your legs are in the same position. Back to warrior two, bringing the hands, arms vertical, horizontal with each other, or horizontal to the earth, looking over the fingertips. Turn that right palm up. Start to take the left hand down the left leg as you tilt back, looking up at your fingertips, and then back to warrior two. You can take your hands down and bring your feet around to the front of the room. Have your toes pointed out. Raise your arms up into star pose, and then start to come into a squat as you lower down into goddess, tailbone and pubic bone, and equally weighting down towards the earth. And then rise up, and one more time down. Strengthening our leg muscles. Then come back up. Now we're going to go into warrior two on the opposite side. So turn the left foot to the left side of the room, and the left leg all the way from the hip bone towards the left side of the room. Turn that back foot, your right foot, turn the heel back a little, toes are coming in, and really ground down through the the back edge of the back foot. Now starting to lower and bend the front knee, bending the front knee so that it's coming towards 90 degrees. Checking that you can move your feet if you need to get a wider stance. Checking that the knee is tracking over the second and third toe. Rotating the chest and ribs towards the front of the room, but not at the sake of that knee coming inward. And then raise your arms up. Stretch out through the back arm to help keep the spine vertical. Look over through the right, over the left fingertips in Warrior Two. Feel a little shaking in your legs. Coming into Reverse Warrior, so left palm comes up towards the ceiling. As you take your right hand down your right leg, looking up at your fingertips. Nice inhale. Exhale back to Warrior Two. Find your center. Find your strength. Reverse Warrior, turning that palm up towards the ceiling, lifting all up through the left side of the rib cage. And back to Warrior Two, stretching across through the fingertips. And one more time. Inhale, lift, and bend. And then exhale back to Warrior Two. Now bring your feet back towards the center. This time you want your feet to be parallel with each other, toes facing forward. We're going to come into a wide-legged forward bend. So just with a straight back. So from your hip, the creases at the tops of your thighs, you're just going to start bending forward until your hands can reach the ground. Typically, your hands will be underneath your shoulders here. And you can let your elbows bend. If you want a little more of a stretch in your spine, so the head is hanging down, nod your head up and down, back and forth, yes and no. Really releasing the neck. We don't realize how much tension we hold in the neck until we really focus on releasing that by shaking the head gently. And now start to bend your right knee and take your hands over to the right side. You get a nice stretch up the left inner thigh. And then come back to center, and then take your, you might want to move your foot actually out to the diagonal here as you start to take your hands over to the left foot and feel a nice stretch up the right inner thigh. Back to center. Just hanging here. You're going to bend your knees and come with a straight back to a wide-legged stance. And then move your feet in a little towards each other as you start to melt down towards the earth. Down, down, down in a nice low squat. Whoop, all the way down until you're seated on your mats. Okay, so now we can come lying down on our backs, knees in towards our torso, hands on the tops of our knees. Bend your elbows as your knees come in towards your chest. Your arms straighten out as your knees move away from your chest. Inhaling, exhale, bring the knees in. Inhale, the knees move away. Do this 2 more times. Now the next time your knees are in towards your chest, just keep them there. You're going to come into a little ball now. So you're going to be moving bring your head up towards your knees. Take your hands and see if you can put them around the soles of your feet as you curl up into a little ball. Your head comes towards your knees. And then you can lengthen everything out into a nice full body stretch here. You can point your toes and flex your toes. Go feel the stretch up one side of your body and then the other side of your body and then all the way through the center of your body. Feel the breath moving in your body. And then start to let everything go. Let your arms relax down to your sides. Let your legs fall heavily in towards the earth. Take your legs out a little apart from each other. Palms facing up or down as we move into Shavasana. So your shoulder blades are flat on the earth, neck is long, the jaw is unclenched. The body is taking up as much space as it needs. Releasing and letting go of all tension, tightness, holding, gripping, letting the weight of the top body fall into the back body and the weight of the full body fall in to the unconditional support of the earth beneath you. You can gently close your eyes and notice the freedom of your breath moving in your body. No need to strive, no need to effort. Just fully and completely rest and relax. And I'm going to just read to you that little passage that we started with. Our bodies cannot move backward into the past, and they cannot run into the future. Our bodies can only live in the present moment. Therefore, if we center our attention in our bodies, we will be here now. So I hope you're able to use this last few minutes of your practice to center and focus in on your body so that you can really feel the pleasure of being in the present moment. Thank you all for joining me. Namaste.